I'll concede your point just for brevity, but
What? Brevity? We don't do that around here. It's probably
No.
Citrus, or what is it? Capital One Bowl. It used to be Citrus Bowl, right?
oh my
Capital
God,
One
dude,
Bowl.
where have you been?
I just like the real name.
It hasn't been the Citrus Bowl since like, what, 2002?
What was your highlight side dish from Thanksgiving?
Oh gosh, Scotch.
This is the Buck Around, the podcast devoted to all things Wisconsin Badger football from a fan perspective. Featuring your hosts, Richard Branch and Maxwell Brusky.
And hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Buck Around. Welcome back to episode 380 of the Buck Around. I am one half of said Buck Around, Richard Branch, joined, as always, by my extractive colleague, Maxwell Brusky. Max, how are you, sir?
Ooh, I don't know. Is that? I guess extractive, is that like graspy or?
I think it's word-ish.
It's
I don't
like
even know what it
colonial.
means. Yeah, it means like you're going to bring information out of us today. That's my tenuous tie to our pre-podcast conversation.
Yeah.
there.
Okay. All right. I had this image of like 1850s Africa. Or
Oh,
something
I
like that.
no, we're not stealing people's labor. Nor are we barbers pulling teeth. And I thought
That's
that's
what I'm
more where you
thinking.
were going.
Yeah.
Was like,
oh, that too. Yeah. No, my teeth are good.
Yeah, no. It's been a minute, Max. It's nice to be back together.
Well, it's summertime
It is.
And the,
We are on a summer pace.
in the non-playing portion of the season.
Indeed. It's been a minute, but I'm glad to be back. And we thought we'll get right to it. We thought we could do sort of a quick hitter episode, sort of about the state of Badger football and things in the Badger football orbit, so to speak, that sort of touch on impact, affect Badger football, and thought we'd do this in a very sort of simple and straightforward format, which is to pose questions. We're like that snotty professor you had in college who thought they were Aristotle or something. And
Socrates.
yeah, I guess it
It's
is
the
a Socratic
Socratic
method.
method.
You're right. And I guess I was like right there, and I'm not even calling it that. But
Well, it's what they do in law school. you know.
yeah,
Like they actually do that.
Yeah, I know.
I don't think I had any courses in undergrad where that was the Socratic method was used. I don't remember that. I feel like I had some in my very cool elementary or middle school things, but
well,
not
those were
until law
teachers
school.
who were kind of they weren't happy that they weren't teaching law school, so they needed to make up for it by torturing middle schoolers.
Yeah, I was nurturing young minds, buddy.
Yeah, that's what they think. That's what they claim. That's how they justify it. That's how they stress the import of their station in life. But
Oh, gosh.
so let's do this. We have 4 questions and 4 things sort of in the world of Badger football. Some of them are currently going on. Some of them have sort of concluded, but we'll sort of deal with them in the how is this significant? What is your takeaway? How does it tie to Badger football kind of way? Some of it is obviously about Badger football, but some of it's about things, surrounding it. So you ready to rock?
Yeah,
This
there's
makes
stuff
sense?
going on. Yeah.
Hopefully the audience understands what I'm saying. So, all right, let's start with question number 1, and we're going to move up in importance as we move along in our minds, or maybe like we're starting from the outside of the onion into the core being actual Badger football. I guess Badger football is the root in the middle. Does that make sense? That's not working, is it?
I think it does, but I think eventually we're going to arrive at broad college football items.
Are we? Are we starting on broad college football items? I think.
We can do that.
Yeah. That's what I thought we were doing, because we're starting with this. My first question to you is, let's talk about the biggest, I think this feels very notable to me, just the way this whole thing unfolded. Not so much, the black and white of right or wrong on the issue, but just more like the way it was received. What do you make of the whole Brennan Sorsby saga at, where was he? Texas Tech.
Well, Texas Tech, I thought the funniest aspect of that is the 2023 game, Wisconsin versus Indiana, and Wisconsin went in as a heavy as a favorite. This was in the Fickell first year, and the quarterback that Indiana put on the field was none other than Brendan Sorsby. Did you remember that?
Not really, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. I was like, wait a minute, that name sounds familiar. No, I think it's, oh gosh, what do you say? Like, so many of these things are go find a local judge, and all these people just toss aside, whatever the NCAA says. So I think there's, I think that's one of the things. And now we got this 5 for 5 thing, 5 years.
Right.
And that's an NCAA thing, and it's like, are they going to listen to that now? So to me, I think that's one of the bigger takeaways is like the lack of institutional legitimacy of the NCAA. Why do we have to listen to that? And then you go, and then what's the next thing? Is like you go to the conferences, and what are they going to do? And I think for everybody, I don't know. I mean, I feel that way that the Big Ten and SEC will eventually just do their own thing. So you have that aspect to it, just kind of the power structure or the so-called power structure. And you think of this College Sports Commission, which I think is also an NCAA thing, supposedly independent from that. Does anybody even talk about that? Like the reviewing of the NIL contracts?
Yeah.
Have they struck any down? It's just all this weird like institutional power stuff, right? And then I think that whole thing is very 2026 because it's just this institutional malaise that we see in this country, if not the world. I think it fits in with that. And then I think the worst part of it is that how much Sorsby gambled on his own games. And when you legalize sports gambling, and I'm sure is it always there? And how does Vegas always get the spread so accurate? And it's intel on quarterback broke up with his girlfriend or God knows what, right? But it's even more if with gambling so pervasive. Like, what do you even is it on its way to turning into WWE? And I'm sorry that if people think it's real, I don't mean to break your heart, but you know what I mean though? It's like that it's just going to be a script. And like I don't know, maybe you go back to there's gambling on both sides of a game.
Right.
So then maybe it does come full circle into true competitiveness. But I mean, that's the thing is like, how the hell could you let that dude play? Are you kidding me? I thought it was pretty fascinating too that like there's all kinds of schools that say, nope, we're not scheduling you, we're not playing you, forget it. If you're gonna do that, forget it. And Texas Tech, of course, did like the it wasn't a great PR job on their part, and they kind of backed him until they absolutely couldn't.
Right.
And I'm guessing that was the Big 12 that finally kind of pushed it over the edge. And I think Texas Tech was about to get ostracized. And it's kind of funny that it comes out of Texas Tech because Texas Tech is like the poster child for NIL money in college. It's not a traditional power, except Cody Campbell comes in and says, look, man, it's minimum 25 mil a year for me. I call the shots. We're going to go out and get 5 stars from Savannah, Georgia. And it's Texas Tech. So, I mean, there's a lot going on there, but I think those institutional takeaways, just like, who cares what the NCAA says for one thing. And then the pervasive gambling, like how if you let that kid play, how can you trust anything? How can you trust a single game that dude's in?
I mean, I do think the core irony was all of this was being debated on ESPN shows that had DraftKings lines scrolling
with the line
across
scrolling. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
So yeah, that was sort of like there is that core issue there that is going to exist. But for me, I think you touched on it. For the part that I took away from it, I think is the most significant thing. Is 2 parts, which is like the known NCAA ineffectiveness. The NCAA just kind of floating, and it's like for them, any rule they come up with just gets struck down. But I think maybe for member organizations, they saw a pathway to do something, and that was through exactly what you talked about, the scheduling side of things. Because how did Texas Tech actually get forced to just let this guy go? It was when schools came out and said, we're just not going to schedule you. and it started, I think it was Nebraska first or something. It's like one of those.
I feel like it was. Yeah.
There was several schools. It was one or two that said, we're going to cancel what we have scheduled with them. And it was in non-revenue sports to start with. It was in the, track and field and cross country.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Rowing and all that stuff. And the fact that that was their roadmap to try to just sort of force a pattern of behavior. And I think, to me, if anything's going to come from this that I think is long term, besides sort of just sort of the outrage and the the anger over the individual issue, it's that, okay, if they're going to do something to create some kind of set of rules long term, it may be through that side of things where it's like, well, no, we're going to enforce a scheduling embargo on people if they do things that really step out of line, and we're going to come up with these collective rules and blah 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 blah. And maybe that's the way they can kind of skirt the antitrust stuff that comes after them. They can skirt a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And you just said embargo too. I mean, you think of this legalized cartel concept.
Yeah.
and it's like, the cartel breaks apart when somebody goes away from it,
yeah,
right, and that's this.
Well,
it's like we're kicking you out of the cartel.
Well, it's what we're going to do is make it so you can't make money. I mean, that's what it all comes down to. In the end, is it's going to be they do it through economic heft, for lack of a better term.
Soft power.
Yeah. So I think it was an interesting, that was my big thought from it, was like, oh, they actually enforced something here. It wasn't through the NCAA, but what is the NCAA? It's the member institutions, right? And the member institutions enforce this through this, well, you know what? If you're going to do this, you're on the outs with us. And hey, Big 12, you're on the out, you're going to be fighting this on your own. And Texas Tech at first tried to push back against the Big 12. And then Big 12 kind of said, this is not a battle we're going to win. It's not a battle we're going to fight. So, because that's would have been the next thing, is if they didn't do it, then my assumption, the escalation would be, well, the SEC has decided we are not scheduling Big 12 teams, right? Or the Big 10 says we're not scheduling Big 12 teams, or the pick a conference, and then they start to be on their own island, and it's going to hurt them over time. So
right.
I think that's your path, is if they're trying to create a structure, it's going to be, I think the lesson learned from it. So anyways, probably too much on a guy that has nothing to do with Badger football.
The only thing with that though is then, I mean, that's it, then there's factions in the cartel if that's the way it's going to work.
Maybe,
right?
But I mean, I think you're getting ahead of it. I think that all I'm doing is looking at what I can take from what just happened.
No, I agree. I think it's funny that you started off with extractive.
Yeah.
The economic concepts, right? I mean, because I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, that's what we're talking about here, and it's just it's fascinating to me, and the gambling part of it, I think is really, to me, that's the biggest deal.
Yeah. Well, that's why they're so against it, because
it was so bad.
Yeah.
And I think with him though, it became it's gambling that you on your own games that we know about.
Right.
And that was always the thing with the legalized gambling, is when, I remember in the football context, like the opening scene of The Last Boy Scout, and then like in the replacements with the kicker. And and he's got to miss that kick, and he's looking up at the stands. How much of that goes on, right? Yeah, and I just quoted two movies from the early and mid 90s. So it's nothing new. There's like the point shaving scandals in the 70s and all that stuff, Northwestern, Boston College, all of those.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been there. Those were all kind of like organized crime related items. Whereas now, and it's kind of funny too, because The Last Boy Scout, like the whole content, if anybody's, do you remember that movie? Nobody doesn't really get talked about a lot. It's one of my favorite movies. We used to watch it all the time at the Towers, by the way. That was one that I think we put that on when I was in charge of the video machine. When I worked at the front desk, I think we watched that like probably every other weekend. I put it on the Towers Vision. But the whole context of that thing is legalized gambling. That's like the whole backdrop of the whole movie in 1993 or whenever it came out. And with it now, it's just so pervasive and legalized just about everywhere, and it's online, so it's it's effectively legal. everywhere.
Right.
And I think, to me, that's kind of, I don't want to say underreported. I think it's the biggest problematic issue with that whole story. And the fact that,
for sure,
that they're going to let him play.
Well, not anymore.
Not even the NFL is going to let him play for at least a year.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. But yeah, so let's move on to this, because I have a rapidly draining battery, Max.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, I'm sure there will be lots of legal seminars on this topic coming up soon.
So we've moved from the larger picture. We're going to move in a ring on the onion here, closer to the team, closer to the core of Badger football. Simple question. What do you take away from the Badgers sending Chris Brooks, Matt Young, and Sebastian Cheeks to media days? No Colton Joseph.
No.
You'd think maybe you're going to send a guy like that. But what do you take from those three?
It's very odd to me. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Chris Brooks is a lot, like, I feel like he's now been there for 8 years.
Yep.
He's like a 5 for 5 poster child now.
Yep.
Especially now that's out there. I don't know. I mean, I guess, does that mean he's going to play a lot? Which I don't know. I think what it does do is, at least for Brooks and for Brooks and Matt Young, I think it speaks to, like, that's the level of respect they have in the locker room and on the team. But Matt Young's only been there for a year. I mean, he played 1 year so far, right? And Cheeks was a one-time transfer too.
Yeah. I mean, how long is Cheeks here? It's 3 years, right?
I think this will be his third year.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was between 23 and 24 is, I think, when he came into right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. They're just, I don't know. And those are players that are, presumably solid players, but so many times it's, the projected all Big Ten players of the year or whatever, it's like the superstars. And I don't know if that's tells you that the Badgers are bereft of that, or if posted in Catalano, they're just too young.
I mean, I think that's definitely the case. They're not sending
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. But it's just kind of fascinating to see that. And not to go too far off, but there was the NBA draft this week, but like in the NFL draft, this was the first time since, I don't know, was it the 80s or 70s, and Wisconsin didn't have a single player drafted, coming off the year before when they had 2 guys in the draft, or 2 guys that were drafted in the 7th round. I forgot who I saw that Iowa was sending, but those are guys that are going to be like stars. They're already in that level. And it's just like, if you're from outside the program, I think you gotta be a freaking junkie like us and the people that follow it like we do, to even know who Chris Brooks is. Maybe even Matt Young and maybe even Sebastian Cheeks. They're not the guys. It's even Abu Sama, like my son, the Hawkeye fan, Cyclone hater, like, he knows who Abu Sama is, but like, at least there's something there. Colton Joseph obviously is, the centerpiece of the transfer class. But yeah, I don't know. What do you got? That was very rambling, but I think you get I think I got the point across. It's just, it was odd, but I don't know who else would you pick?
Well, I think you don't have a clear star. So like, what do I take from it?
Yeah.
They don't have a clear star who's a junior or a senior, like a guy who's on the way out type of thing.
Yeah.
But I do think a big part of it for them, for this coaching staff in particular, is that they care very much about how their media is portrayed, how they are, or I said that wrong, how they are portrayed in the media. I got my sentence backwards.
Yeah. I knew what you meant.
These 3 guys, just from watching availabilities, are 3 of the better talkers they have. Sebastian Cheeks especially is just like a guy who you see him in an interview, he's a very confident dude. They can hear a question, they can give an answer that's a little bit more than nothing, while also not saying something that's going to make the team look stupid. And I think that's honestly a big part of it.
Sure.
Chris Brooks is 100% the guy who's always been from Wisconsin, because he's going to get that question, and that's going to chew up a bunch of time, because, especially now that, media days don't matter anymore. They're just, they don't anymore. And everything everything is running out the clock, with the coaches. When they talk, they literally talk, they have a 20-minute time up there and they ramble for 17 and a half minutes. so that they get 2 questions and then they're out of the main part. And then they get a couple of the local media guys who will ask a couple follow-ups, but it runs that out. And a guy like Brooks, again, it's the same thing. He's going to have a certain amount of time with the media, and that question is going to come up and it's going to chew up some of that time. And they get the publicity that fits what they want, which is sort of the red meat stuff for the home people, for the hometown people, while not running the risk of much negative getting out there. So I honestly think that's a big part of it. And maybe it just points to, okay, these guys are also more sort of like the captainy types on the roster.
They absolutely are. Yeah. No, and that's that's pretty cool. I mean, because they definitely are that.
I guess, I'm thinking back to when Colton was on, and he certainly didn't say Chris Brooks was going to lead the team in snaps. That wasn't, of the wide receivers.
Right.
But certainly sounds like he's going to be visible in some way. And Sebastian Cheeks, I mean, he was a rotational guy last year, right? And
yeah, definitely.
You certainly think that with what they've brought in and the way they're structuring things, he will continue to be, maybe a guy who's a 35 snap guy, right?
Mm-hmm. So I feel like that. Yeah.
That is the only other part that, again, plays into that maybe there are no stars type of thing. And Colton Joseph says nothing interesting. So, and he's brand new, and I get why they're not sitting. Same reason they're not sitting.
100%. Yeah, which is it's fascinating because it's very transfer portal emblematic. I guess and Chris Brooks is quote homegrown, but it's just funny, like the local media people and the people that it's like the casual fan wouldn't know. They might know Cheeks, and they might know Young because they played, or especially Young played a lot last year. But the casual fan doesn't know who Chris Brooks is. I don't think. I mean, maybe they do, but I don't think so.
Yeah. All right.
It's not Chris Borland out there,
No, most definitely not. So let's move on to our next one, because there's not much. That one we don't need to get crazy over it. I think we've hit it.
No, it was hashtag noteworthy though.
Yeah. So my next question to you is, what do you take away from the relative quiet surrounding the athletic director search for Wisconsin to this point?
I think it means it's going well.
Yeah?
I think so, yeah. I don't know, because it's something that it's almost like offensive lineman, I think. Like if you don't hear the name, that means it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Generally,
Because you saw that one name, right? You saw that one Arizona person or something like that.
Was that the lady?
Yeah, I forget her name.
Yeah,
as I said, I'm going to stay consistent on this. I will have no opinion on who they hire. I will have none.
Sure,
they'll get hired, and we'll see. I'll have no opinion because I don't know. But yeah, that was the only name I saw, because I'm also not following it super closely.
No, well, if you wanted to follow it super closely, how would you do that?
What I mean is I'm not actively searching for any information. There is stuff out there. I mean, probably.
I don't know. How would you follow it closely other than trying to cultivate sources in the athletic department or on the board of regents?
No, I think there are some media people who cover it closer than others, like national media people. And I feel like that's where it kind of trickled in from. And I didn't see it from anyone that I follow regularly, anyone who's reporting that I actually pay attention to. And it's just because it's like one of those, what was the guy for fans of, conference politics? Adam Rittenberg. He's still one of my favorite Twitter posts of all time lives rent free in my brain forever from 13 years ago when he started it was about something so banal. And he said, for fans of conference realignment politics. And it was the most uninteresting thing forever. And I'm thinking, who is a fan of conference realignment politics? Because he said it very serious. Like, he's a guy who probably has said a few things about it that I am. As soon as I see
Matt Brown and 3 other guys.
You know what, though? But Matt Brown will do it better than Adam. Sorry, I don't know why I'm throwing Adam Rittenberg under the bus, but that conference realignment politics thing still bothers me. And that was like 15 years ago. It still is in my brain.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah, I don't know why. But
I don't know. It's kind of like no news is good news, I guess. Okay. And it's not like one of those things where, it's like a head coach for a big sport, or and where I was going with that, it's like they went through 3 choices and they said no, or or something like that.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? There's nothing like that. So I don't think it's I don't know. That's what I take away from it. Like, kind of no news is good news. And to your point, like who they wind up hiring anyway, very few people are going to have any idea what the background and the process is anyway.
Correct. My only takeaway from it, or my thought, is I feel like the longer this stays quiet like it has, the more I think Marcus Sedbury becomes a real possibility, because he has hired. Now, I get, I'm going to say there are some caveats to this, because the guy was he was kind of like an obvious hire for the job. And yes, I understand it's a non-revenue sport, but it is a non-revenue sport that Wisconsin is very, very good at, which is hiring a new cross-country coach, to succeed, a guy who's, legendary.
Yeah, right.
And the coach they hired, whose name I cannot think of, that Sedbury hired, kind of makes sense. He went to Wisconsin, blah, 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 blah. He was a member of the Milwaukee, it's not the Gridiron Club, but it's more like that. What's the one that's the General Athletic Booster Club? I forget, but he was like the president or something of it. I mean, he was active on the board there. So everything about him kind of makes sense.
Is that Langdon?
Whoever they just hired the other day, I don't even know his name. I mean,
no, the club.
No. It's like the W Club or something. I forget what it's one of those alumni organizations. So like he clearly was, heavily involved. He's a high level assistant track coach at Oregon. It's who they were, no matter who it was going to hire this guy if he was in the mix. So like maybe it's just simply a box checking. But the fact that it happened and, Sedbury was now that may be him in a way, sort of like trying to present himself as, look, I can do this job. I mean, he was very visible in the hiring process, does the interviews. My only takeaway is I still think that guy, I have no opinion either way, but I feel like that guy is a very viable, viable in terms of perception of the committee, option for them. Like, I think there's a very realistic chance that that's just what happens. Again, I have no opinion.
I think it's interesting because he's young for one, and then it's not somebody who's like the way that he would have come up like a lot of other ADs in big time programs. His path is a little bit different. It's more like modern, I guess.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's on the NIL side. Yeah, that's kind of why I think there's something to it.
I think this would be a good transition to our next question, because for my money, for my part, I would say too that as long as you get the cash flow to purchasing athletes, or back to extractive again, but like as long as you get that cash flow right, I think that's like the most important job for relating to on-field success.
I mean, again, maybe that's the shift in what being an athletic director is. It used to be hiring a good football coach. Maybe it's now just making sure you have the fundraising teeth, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. And that's my transition point, because both football and basketball recruiting have been, talk about good vibes, my goodness.
Right.
And to me, that just says like, somebody's putting the cash out there. So
yeah,
I'll be interested. What's his name? Yasmin. I forgot his last name, but he just took a visit to LSU. A committed guy, and I'll be interested to see if they keep him. Just because LSU it's like the Wild West, I want to say, but that's not the right way to say it. It's just you have a lot of people that throw a lot of money around.
Oh, that guy Zion you're talking about, by the way.
Zion, yeah. They have a lot of people who throw a lot of money around in a way that Wisconsin does not.
And they've been pretty.
And I go back to my thing though. It's like I still think that Wisconsin has plenty of money. It's just very conservative. The ego profiles are different than they are at other schools and in the South. And that's not a Southern stereotype. It's just, there's a lot more that Mississippi State doesn't have that guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's something being done right as far as that goes, because the guys that they signed, what did they sign? Like 14, is it 13, 14 consensus 4-star prospects? And I think that whole in-state thing too, I still think that's somebody's putting the money in there. I'm going to go back to that 100%, because for the in-state prospects to commit, that is kind of that conservative money. I feel like that's where that'll get spent. They're happy to spend it on in-state kids, homegrown Badgers, but they've gone beyond that.
One question, timeout. When you're saying, I mean, I don't know what you're saying. I don't see 14 consensus in-state 4-star prospects, just to be clear. I think it's more like 7, 6. I mean, maybe they are a 4-star prospect on one. I mean, I'm looking at the composites.
Okay, fine. Yeah, maybe it's not consensus. Yeah. Sure. Okay.
But yeah. So I guess the question I had, here's what I'm trying to figure. There's 2 parts to it. Number one, and I think sometimes we overcomplicate things, which is, to your point. So I'm using 24/7 composites. So the guys that are actually composite across all the recruiting services 4-star guys. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them in this class of 23. Okay. Of those 7, but this isn't arguing your point. Don't worry. I'm not arguing that. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them are in state. I think when we talk about these recruiting classes, I do think some of what's lost in the sauce, so to speak, is just if you have a good in-state class, it's going to make your recruiting class better just by nature, just by the reality of the way these things work. If you have a good in-state class, I mean, there are 10 guys that they judged as recruitable. I don't think this is Wisconsin. I really don't think this is like, oh, Luke Fickell finally realized that there's in-state recruiting. I don't think so either.
No, I think it's a bumper crop.
It's a bumper crop, exactly.
But it's a bumper crop where they didn't lose Billy Strauss and Carson Hinsman, or Jerry Cross, who didn't really turn out to be much. But Carson Hinsman has a national championship.
Yeah. No, I get it. Agreed.
Yeah. So I mean, there's something to be said there, but I totally agree with you on the. Yeah. No, I don't think it's Fickell finally figured it out, but I also think the money was there too. Like the money was there to keep a Carson Hinsman here, and that was probably, I think, wasn't that like the last class before NIL basically?
More or less.
Maybe the second to last. I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's not quite apples to apples, but the point is that especially of course Loken or a Cole Reeder, like those guys had pretty long offer sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Those are guys I felt like they might have lost at another time, or even at this time that they could have gotten quote outbid. I don't know, and I'm not saying anything about the character of those kids, and whether they I'm not saying anything about that, but it just seems to me that the money is flowing, and some of the for them to do as well as they did on the the official visit weekends, those are Plan A guys, weren't they?
I guess. I'm not arguing that they're not Plan A guys, but I feel like this is the same sort of cycle they had the last couple of years. You're getting these guys in the summer, and then they get them all now. You get them at the end of their, whatever it is, junior year, right?
Right.
And you're getting them all on campus over the summer. They do these like 3 big weekends, and bang, 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 bang. And that fills out the class. And then they have 3 or 4 left. I don't feel like the pattern of it is radically different. To me, it doesn't come off as radically different. I think the 2 big factors to me seem to be, 1, again, the in-state class. And 2, I think there's some signs for sure, especially when you color it in with the basketball side, that there is a degree of cash infused. But I guess the question I had for myself is, we can't have goldfish memories. I have to go back to signing day, 6 months ago, when Fickell was talking about how the new approach to recruiting is that your high school players have to be draft picks, and there have to be fewer of them, that you invest more in. And you're going to build your roster more through the portal, blah, 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 blah. And this is the new paradigm. And now it's 6 months later, and there's 23 guys in a class. And so
a lot of draft picks.
I guess, like, for me, the question is, am I just dealing with, it's 2 parts, right? Or it's 2 possible conclusions. Is this Fickell lurching around, and, whatever he thought 6 months ago, he's now, reversing course on? Or is it simply my mind is now like I have such a bias, I guess like a deconfirmation bias of Luke Fickell as an effective coach that I'm just not. I'm putting too much into coach speak and not willing to just be like, oh, okay, he's got to say that in the moment to sell it, right? And which is it? And then in the end. The last part to me is it may not matter if he's, gone at Halloween. Half this class is not going to be there. So it just doesn't matter. Maybe 2/3 of the class isn't there and they're rebuilding it with leftovers.
Oh, I know.
So
Well, I
we'll see.
kind of like where you're at on that in terms of, is it another curve on Luke Fickell's journey?
Yeah, I just don't know.
And you don't know, which, I mean, there's plenty of reasons to think it's another curve on Luke Fickell's journey. And I think he's changed course so many times and said something like firm that wasn't the same a year and a half later. Could this be that? Yeah, I don't know. The other thing is, yes, like you said, I mean, they do have to keep them, right?
Correct.
And I mean, if they get, I don't think they're going to get smoked at Kinnick Stadium on Halloween night. I mean, I don't think so. But I don't know. I mean, that's kind of the other part of this too. I mean, I like the way that the rosters shape it up, and when we get and talk about it, there's some excitement there. But I mean, I don't know how much different is that the last couple of years, other than the schedule being a little bit lighter. I mean, if they go out and get smoked by Notre Dame in Green Bay, I don't know. And
yes,
you just don't know. I was gonna say I had one more thing on that because I did kind of like it because I mean at least there's some confidence in that. Like that back in the old days. I mean, I think NAL's changed a lot of this, and that's where I think they are. At least to me, it looks like they've gotten that right, and the cash is flowing the right way. But you would always say like that was like the ultimate negative recruiting pitch, right? Like that dude ain't gonna be there. Why are you gonna go play for him? I'm sure that's probably being done, but whatever they're doing is outweighing that. And whether it's coming from the kids that truly want to go there. I mean, you get like this Makai Williams guy. Like, holy cow! Like that dude is really, really into being a Badger. And I don't know if that's the kind of guy that's who's gonna have Alabama pay him during the fall, and he's gonna leave. And it's almost like protesting too much almost. I don't know. But you got a lot of guys like that are really into it. And if there was the negative recruiting pitch out there, which I don't know, it seems to me like that's a pretty obvious one. If you're recruiting against the Badgers for a particular prospect, it seems to be the most obvious one. So, and then last, and I think this is one of your overall points, if for the Bill King listeners in the audience, he's always got this. He's at commercial breaks there's bump music, and then usually like a lot of times like a quote from a caller or a quote from him on something, and he's got this one where it says he's like, who cares who the recruiting class is if you've got the wrong guy at the coach? You can have all these guys, but does it matter because they're playing for the wrong guy? So I mean, that one, every time I hear that when I'm listening to it in the morning, I'm just like, I don't know. It just you know what I mean? And
yeah,
all my excitement about, because I feel like the vibes are really, really good right now with the program going into this season. And I like that. They've been that way, the past couple. But I don't know. I just like I go back to hearing Bill King in my head talking about who cares who the recruiting class is if they're playing for the wrong guy.
Yeah, we'll see. So
I know.
All
it's
right.
like one of those iron laws, like you're coming up against that, or maybe we're not. I don't know.
We said 4 questions and we're at 40 odd minutes. I think that's a nice round number, Max.
Yeah, that's like 10 minutes per question. I can do math. I always say that.
Thanks. I was struggling with that part.
The University of Wisconsin saw fit to give me a bachelor's degree in mathematics.
I like that you really spelled that one out for everyone.
Well, I just like the evenness of it, I guess. I don't know.
That was
It
implied
appealed to
in
my
the
aesthetic
four.
sensibilities.
That was sort of implied in the 4 questions, 40 minutes thing. I didn't think we needed to explain it to everybody, but I appreciate that you're like, just in case any of you are having
Thanks,
trouble with
Captain
that,
Obvious.
with the long division here. That was great. All right.
Short division, as it were.
Actually, you're right. It's not even long. Now I have pie on my face. All right. I think on that note, should we wrap it? We'll be back, I don't know, sometime in July at some point when we got some more things to chat
come
about.
Back. Yeah. Maybe we'll do like a fall camp preview.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Something like that.
We got to talk about something. So we'll be back.
Right.
It was fun, everybody. Max, good to see you. We'll chat soon. I think on that note, until the next time.
Until the next time, and happy summer.
Yeah. Happy 4th, everybody. Bye-bye.
Enjoy the conversation? Head on over to buckaroundpodcast.com to find all the ways to connect with the show, links to our Patreon page, and feeds for every major podcasting platform. We want to thank each and every one of our patrons. You make this podcast possible. This has been The Buck Around, Badger football analysis from a fan perspective.